Welcome to PhD with Woman on It, Hack the Future. My name is Bata Young, and today's guest of PhD Positivity Hacks Delivered will be Nyla Beth Gawel. Topic: Empower Your Tech Journey interview with Nyla Beth. Let me remind you, this is a grassroots community that focuses on women on IT, an inclusive forum of women in technology, startups, and female leaders who are supported by men as well. And I bring heart to that hustle because empathy is my mojo, and empathy is critical when you are empowering your tech journey. First, let me remind you some of the things that's been happening in the world of technology and our community. Congratulations to Amazon Web Services Executive Director Rashika Ramal for winning the Africa Tech Award for Women in Technology Leadership and finalists for the Leader of the Year Award. Good luck and congratulations to our former PhD guest, Alexandra Kunesh, on her upcoming event at Dev Trends InfoShare on May 23rd in Gdańsk. We wish you all the best, Ola. Finally, cheers to Priyanka Komala, former PhD guest, on earning her certification in AI for product management. More successes, the more merry our community is. Priyanka, wishing you more starry rewards. Now, let's go back to our topic, episode 143. We have to look to level up our tech skills and become a powerhouse in your field. This interview is for you. We are sitting down with the incredible Nyla Beth Gawel, a strategy rock star with over 15 years of experience crushing it at Fortune 500 companies. Not only has she climbed the corporate ladder, but she is also a mom, a philanthropist, and an all-around inspiring woman. In this interview, you will get the inside scoop on cracking the tech industry. Nyla Beth will share her battle-tested tips on navigating the tech world and landing those dream jobs. We'll also explore how to find the balance. We will learn how Nyla balances her career with her personal life because, let's face it, achieving success shouldn't mean sacrificing everything else. Thriving through change, learn how Nyla Beth adapts and thrives during career transitions, so you can too. Nyla, let's start with a simple question. Where in the world are you today?
Today, I am sitting outside of Washington, D.C., in a suburb called Bethesda in Maryland, enjoying a lovely sunshine day of 80-degree temperatures here in the mid-Atlantic of the United States.
Well, I hope it's warm with everybody else who's listening to us today. And if it's not warm, we're gonna heat up the conversation. Hit us a like, give us a little bit of love, make a comment, even if it's just to say hello, because it is critical for algorithms to recognize that female power exists. It's such a pleasure, Nyla Beth, to have you today. You have such an impressive background with over 15 years of experience in the tech industry. Can you share with us key moments that defined your journey and helped you rise to the top in a Fortune 500 company?
Thank you for the opportunity to be here and share, because I feel like it is always a privilege to be able to look back and say, how did I get here? And remember that over 20 years ago, my roadmap didn't have me ending up here. It had many other twists and turns. I feel very fortunate that at the time that I was coming into technology, it was in the late 1990s, early 2000s, where organizations and companies were really getting their hands around how technology was going to change what they did, how they did it. And in my area of national security and safety, working with the government and with companies, it was really going to be used to improve the lives of citizens. And an inflection point for me that really established the first turning point in my career were the unfortunate tragic events of September 11th. At that time, I was working with in the U.S. Department of Justice, working on counterterrorism technologies. What could be done to understand and intercept different types of communication, and that became Homeland Security technology. So we saw the shift in the world and the role that technology and government was going to play in our daily lives for safety and security, and it really changed my career path. It opened me up to work with different research organizations, different companies, different laboratories who were all looking at how could you take the creativity and the future of tech and not just do it for us as consumers, but apply it to the needs of citizens and countries to improve safety and to improve security. And that really became the trajectory of my career, working with companies that had global missions, not in the consumer space, but in the public service and public safety arenas. Fast forward over a decade or so, and what I realized is that when you're in these companies, it's not enough to create the technology, but it's really important to understand how can it be used? How is it used ethically? How is it used safely? How is it maintained? And it allowed me to move into not just the role of designing and helping people adopt technology, but into the corporate structures to help guide what are the roles that companies have if they are in technology spaces. And then I became known as a corporate strategist. What's worth investing in? How do you do it? And how do you get people really excited about it?
Nyla Beth, mic drop. I have no more questions because you know what? You just nailed one thing that I always tell our ladies. You need to be able to tell a story. And starting with 9/11, which is so relatable, I think so many people still know what happened, still remember. I believe that was the pivoting moment of starting your story and getting the right hook. So now, breaking into the tech industry can be daunting. What advice do you have for someone who is just starting out and aiming to land their dream job in tech?
The first thing to understand is that the tech industry right now is every industry. Whether you be interested in retail, skincare, health, wellness, national security, telecommunications, AI, everything we do around us, even scheduling how we get appointments in our day to day lives is tech enabled. So, for people who are excited about moving into the tech industry, I challenge you to think about, do you want to be creating the technology or do you want to be helping people embrace and use it? Those are two very strong paths, both of which give you a strong foothold in technology, but create different opportunities to figure out, do you need the technical skills to build and design it? Do you need the customer skills to understand how it's used and what the needs are? And I challenge everybody to remember that tech is not in its own silo now. It is something that we use in every facet of life. So whatever your area of interest is in tech, see if you can narrow it down. See if you can figure out if you like to build, use, problem solve with it, and look for your entrees there. Because the way you get in is going to be where you get your greatest passion, and it will really create the foundation for your trajectory.
Hmm. Beautiful, thank you, Nyla Beth. That reflects what your career has been. What did you find most daunting for you when you were trying to get into technology or into more exciting role?
The thing that was most daunting to me about moving into technology was feeling like I didn't have the right technical knowledge or the right training. What I quickly realized is that the people that I was working with who had technical degrees, even some who were PhDs and had doctorates, technology was moving so fast that even though they maybe had certain trainings, it didn't mean they had the expertise needed for where technology was going. That served as an aha moment for me because I didn't anymore fear that I did not have what was required to enter the room. But instead, I realized that we are all learning. So, what do I need to learn today? not worrying about catching up, not worrying about having the credentials, but really focusing on what do I need to know? How can I best understand what is unique about these technologies, what some of the standards are? And as soon as I put myself into not being worried about having the degrees or the certifications, but instead going out and taking classes and teaching and learning and asking questions, I found that all of a sudden the world opened to me. And I was very quickly able to understand things in the telecommunications space, which became the IT space and the digital space much more quickly. I stopped comparing myself and instead I just went out and learned.
Stop comparing yourself and start learning. Now, Nyla Beth, balancing a high-powered career with personal life can be challenging,
Mm.
especially as a man and philanthropist. How do you manage to find that balance, and what tips can you offer to others trying to do the same?
So, the first thing I want to talk about is kind of the concept of balance. I think of balance as a seesaw being, we were all on it as a child. Rarely was the joy in riding a seesaw staying completely horizontal. The fun of the balance was moving up and down and learning how fast you wanted to go, what you were willing to trade off. Just like riding a seesaw for children on a playground, for me, balance became a concept of not perfect equilibrium, but momentum and constant understanding of what mattered to me on a given day, a given year, and really making sure I prioritized it. I would be lying if I said that my balance has been the same or that I'm even good at it over the course of my life. In my younger years, before I had a family, I was absolutely working more hours, probably a day, in an office. However, that's not to say I work any less now, but it's saying that I work differently. And so the concept of balance changed. And it wasn't about hours and measurable time, but it was about output. It was about the quality of what I was doing and the way in which I was doing it. Over the years, as I had kids, I quickly realized that that matters. The legacy that I am ingraining on them is something, and the days I can't take back, which also made me realize that balance isn't something I control myself. While it's influenced by my family life, it's also influenced by the people that I professionally work with. How was I better using the team around me to enable mine and their balance? How was I not taking everything on myself, but instead stepping up as a leader and giving people opportunities? So, this balance, it moves, and you have to be okay with the fluctuation. And just always know today and this year what will matter and what lasting legacy am I having.
Well, can you give us an example? Because you talked about output. What do you mean by that? Was it employing more people to develop the ideas you had, or was it just working smart?
I think it's a combination of working smarter and working more effectively. It's also a moment to realize that when you're having the opportunity to bring other people into what you're trying to do, it means you are starting to be a manager and you're starting to be a leader. To be able to move from realizing only you can do a task to you need a team to help you is the beginning of a progression to management and leadership. And so for me, when I realized that it wasn't about can I do it? Do I need to be the face doing everything? But can I bring people together and we collectively achieve a deadline, build something, solve a problem? When I was able to realize that team approach was going to do more than I ever could by myself, I started working quote unquote smarter. I also started becoming a leader in the organization. And that is for me the opportunity that when you start realizing that no matter how many hours you put in, how much you try to do yourself, you'll need other people. That's the time where I think you begin to work more effectively and more creatively and more as a manager and a more senior professional.
Naila Beth, it's so easy to say, well, I could employ some people and to be a leader and manage them. However, It's reality for a Fortune 500 company. It's not so much reality for smaller companies. So what would you advise these women who would like to work smarter but are given more and more tasks because whatever is on their desk, they will just put their head down and start working and try to deliver because they want to make that career progression. And they think the only way to do it is by working hard.
I, you know, I it is you're absolutely spot on. And as an entrepreneur myself now, I see that. And I see when you don't have the resources or you don't have the ability to hire, how do you still get things done? And the first thing that I generally remember is that the list of what you might need to do is only going to grow. The key is what is essential and what must be done and what can only you uniquely do. Having that clarity and knowing what is of the utmost priority and what is it that you uniquely of those priorities should be focused on helps prioritize the list. You can always add more things to the list, but the skill of knowing what is important is where to start. So, first, prioritize. Understand of all the tasks that you're being asked to do, whether you be in a small company or even be in your own, what are the ones that if they do not occur, something negative will happen. Because there's a lot of things, if they don't occur, they'll move to tomorrow. They might move to next week. So get that focus, get that prioritization. The second thing is know what is unique, as I mentioned, uniquely you. What is it that is so only you has the understanding, the skills, or the perspective to be able to deliver? If it is something that there is somebody else, ask for help, delegate. Too often we think I have to do it. Somebody asked me to do it. Just because they asked you to do it, maybe they didn't realize there was somebody else who had the ability to do it. So think about how you are going to ask for help and share that workload, even if it's just with somebody sitting in the office next to you. It might be their opportunity to do what's uniquely them as well.
Oh, absolutely. However, there is a third element I would like to add here, which is ability to say no. How important is it?
Hmm. It's, no is a word that I still struggle with, to be honest. I grew up under guidance that said, you don't say no, you say yes and, or yes, but. And as a result, I've really had to struggle with no. For me, no is usually it is a negative word. It actually implies negativity. What I've learned is that when you say no, the key about saying no is to first understand you're saying no because you've said yes to something else. So again, understand that when you say no, people don't like to hear that. So be very clear. Say, I have understood the priorities to be one, two, and three. You're asking me to do something that's number four or five. So I'm going to say no at this moment so I can focus over here. You don't have to necessarily give that explanation, but it allows people to maybe say, she is saying no because she has the understanding of what matters. That's a way that whether it be your manager or your colleague, you're helping them. You're helping them understand prioritization. The other side of saying no is no and giving an advice. This is sort of like saying the yes, but, or the yes, and, only it's the no, and. No, I'm not able to do that, but have you thought about asking somebody else? Have you thought about maybe waiting until we get done a few other tasks? Offering people a path as to where they can go take that ask that they're coming to you with and put it someplace else. The key thing to know is that when you do say no, if you say no all the time, it comes off as maybe that you're not able to do it. So think really strategically about what should you be saying no to and what should you be finding a way to get to yes.
Hmm. Nyla Beth, I'm surprised that you admitted to your little flaw here, which is ability to say no. It's so difficult. However, with as you mature with your career, I'm sure it's much easier than it was at the beginning. We have one comment from Patrick in IPO in Patrick's opinion. Spot on, Nyla Beth. It's to your previous comment. Great insight. Autodidactism rules. Go read, go learn, and never fear the folks with qualification in a dynamic sector. Indeed, I agree with that. Now, let's go into delivering remarkable results. And you're known not only from uh, delivering these results, but also your collaborative leadership style. Can you share an example of when teamwork played a pivotal role in achieving a major goal?
I believe teamwork is essential to achieving any goal in your personal life or your professional life. One of the opportunities that I look back on in my career that is, to me, one of the prime examples of different people coming together with very diverse expertise. It actually was when I was asked by a company for which I worked to create a new concept of an innovation center. The purpose of this innovation center was to really become the physical manifestation of a new way of working. This was in the mid 20 teens. And the idea was, how do we create a culture of innovation? And I was asked to lead it. Now, there's a lot of people who said, go build a laboratory. Other people said, go create a co working space. And people had their answers as to what this was going to look like. For me, when you're given a task and you're looking to define success, so often people already have a preconceived notion. But the key for me was thinking first and foremost, what are we trying to achieve? Really going back to the core of why and asking yourself, why is this task essential to an organization or to a team? What, if we are successful, will be different tomorrow than what we're doing today? And in order for that difference to occur, who will both be benefited by it and who might be challenged and or at risk? By asking those questions up front, we were able to define a definition of success from the beginning that was broader and more articulated and more detailed than just go build an innovation center. What we realized is that we needed to build a new cultural manifestation of what innovation meant in a consulting industry. As soon as we got through there, that meant there would be people displaced. There would be people who we needed their input. We needed people who didn't even know this was going to happen to be part of the team from the outset. And this is where teamwork matters. Teamwork isn't just using the people you already know. Teamwork is identifying what are the skills, both hard skills or maybe people who will be impacted by your project, and how can I get them engaged early, consistently, and meaningfully, such that as a project evolves, you have people who you can trust are just as invested in the success because they've been there from the beginning and they are availing to you those resources. If you have a team of people who already share your opinion, already understand your view, and they offer you no pushback, your team is not strong. Your team needs to be people who will challenge you, sometimes people who you maybe don't see eye to eye on, and people who, as a result, when all is said and done and your project has come to fruition, will have truly understood the ins, the outs, the challenges, and the successes along the way. Creating that team from the very beginning of a project is what makes later that project's success astronomical.
Said all of life is luck. You were quite lucky when you were working on the cybersecurity or security technology at the time when the 9/11 happened. But how do you stay ahead of the curve with technological advancement without jumping from one topic that is trending to another topic that is trending, whether it's blockchain technology or AI, and tomorrow it's going to be, I don't know, what, flying robots?
Sure, it'll be something, no doubt. For me, especially in the field of technology, recognizing there's a hype cycle and there's always something new out there, I found that I get the best focus on understanding how does it affect me on a day-to-day life. And I use my mother actually as my example. How might it affect her? And you might say, well, if you're thinking about the big tech industry, why are you thinking about how you explain this to your mother? Um, and it became down to understanding what is the purpose of the technology? What problems is it solving? And if those problems are shared enough in the market, then they are something that then that is something that's going to be important to learn about. So take, for example, AI. Right now, we hear so much about artificial intelligence, but I try to put this into, why does it matter? How much about this do I need to know? And then I think about how you go about thinking and planning a vacation right now. Something simple that my mother actually has to do. How does she understand how the recommendations that come from an AI tool or a bot on a travel website, how they are shaping her view of her must-see sites and her visits? As soon as I can put a technology into a real life example like that, I begin to understand both why it's important, the risks associated with it, and the important understanding for me being in the industry as to how much do I need to know and how much do I need to understand where this technology is going. Now, let me juxtapose that against other things that are out there that are maybe a little bit more hype. They're probably hype because right now the use case is not clear to us on a day to day, very addressable way. That doesn't mean that I ignore them, but it means for me and how much for where I am, I want to lean in to investing, learning, training. I kind of wait till I get down to knowing what are those use cases and are the use cases broad enough that I'm going to see actually market adoption, market opportunity, and market risk. Um, for me, I like to learn. I have a learning mindset, intellectual curiosity, and the ability to pull whatever that tech trend is into something you can see day in and day out and that you can explain to somebody outside the tech industry. As soon as you can do that, that's a tech you better be paying attention to. That's a form of technology you should be learning about because it will become pervasive.
That's beautiful that you take inspiration from your mother. And talking about mother, here's what mother of fashion says, Coco Chanel. Women are always saying we can do anything that men can do. Well, of course we can. We always have. The point is, we do it differently. And how apt is it in terms of your approach to innovation? And here is another comment from Patrick. I always loved. Oh, we have created a committee to design and build an entrepreneurial innovation center. Facepalm. Heard that before. Hashtag lost cause. Now, speaking more seriously, your involvement in philanthropic boards and community service is inspiring. How has giving back influenced your professional journey and personal growth?
I was raised with a viewpoint that of gratitude, and I believe that hard work and gratitude have led to a lot of opportunities for myself. But part of that means I need to give back. It's not enough to say I'm thankful for my opportunities. One of my passions is creating opportunities for others. Being involved in philanthropic work, which comes in the form of serving on fundraising boards, even donating my professional skills to organizations and nonprofits. One of the things I find is it's a really great way to practice. It's a great way to practice building your business acumen, building your customer success, understanding and skills, and also a good way to practice sometimes the softer skills or ones that don't are not required of you on a day-to-day professional scenario. For example, the act of fundraising, the ability to go out and ask people to donate money to a cause. For me, a lot of times it's Children's National Hospital here in DC or the American Red Cross. Those are two organizations that to go and ask somebody for money, that can be an awkward thing to do. If you are a startup, you have to go ask investors for money, and it can feel very personal. Through my philanthropic work, I actually got to practice what it's like to ask for money because all of a sudden I wasn't asking for money for me or for my business. I was asking for a cause, for a passion, for an organization that did good in the world. So although it didn't feel like something that was per se benefiting me professionally, it was practice. That's the same practice that you can develop to ask when you have to do your own salary negotiation. That's the same type of practice that entrepreneurs need to think about when they're asking investors for money. And so finding opportunities to hone skills and use the skills you have and use them in philanthropic ways is also a way to also build your other skill sets. And that's something for me that, again, it's something I get to contribute and see value, but I also get to learn. And that's something that to me makes philanthropic work just so beneficial above and beyond the value of the organizations and what they do themselves.
The greatest adventure you can take is to live the life of your dreams, as Oprah Winfrey says. Are you living the life of your dreams, Nyla Beth?
I am living what I know is a life that I never dreamt I would live. And I say that very explicitly because I think the life of um, my dreams have changed over the years. When I was young, I had two dreams in life: to be a waitress on roller skates and president of the United States. I've not achieved those dreams. But along the way, I've learned to roller skate and I've served as a president of different organizations. So I say that in jest because living the life of my dreams for me has really changed. The life of my dreams is to know that I have impact, that I have value with the people with whom I work and with my family, and that I'm shaping the next generation, not just through my children, but also people who I've gotten to lead and manage. I never knew that was my dream. I didn't know my dream always seemed like being a globe traveler and getting to travel into different cultures. But what I found is that while I might not be the president and I might not be a waitress on roller skates, I have fulfilled my dreams that I just never knew were in there. And I get to have impact. I get to travel. I get to work with people from across the globe who I learned so much more from that than I can ever give. And apparently that was my dream all along. It just maybe I never woke up with the crisp clarity to say it.
Mm. Well, Oprah Winfrey also says that through the jobs that she didn't like to do, she learned what she likes to do. And that was her main advice. If you don't like the roller skating job, that's the way to pivot. And now, speaking of pivots, the infection points, tell me or give us some example of the infection points that change your career and made you change your dreams.
So the first, as I mentioned, was September 11th, where all of a sudden working in the field of technology really changed. And it wasn't technology for the technology's sake, but it was for missions that really were going to have matter in the world. So that was my first professional inflection point. My second major inflection point was having my daughter, who's now 10 years old. All of a sudden, I realized that while work will always be a huge part of who I am, there was something else that required my time. And it made me realize that my time and the quantity of my work was was going to have to shift, but that the type of work I did and how I created a platform for others to grow by giving them greater responsibility, that became, I think, the second inflection point in my career, moving into more managerial roles because I had something else I had to do. I had to rely on other people. I think the third inflection point in my career came when I realized I was probably as senior as I was going to get in a very large company, and things were going well. I also realized that the learning that I had in front of me was going to start decreasing, and that I had a lot more life to live and a lot more that I knew I needed to learn. And all of a sudden, I realized that while things looked fantastic and on paper I had a great role, a great title, what could be different? What I realized is I had to push myself. I had to take myself out of my comfort zone and go into an environment that was going to challenge me to learn things, as you mentioned about Oprah, that I didn't already know. And that would be the catalyst for probably the next decade or 20 years of my professional being. That was a few years ago when I decided to go and be a entrepreneur and leave some of the comforts of a large organization. The learnings as I've been in on this inflection point are that I'm betting on myself and I'm investing in myself and recognizing that, going back to that, having impact, helping and working through others is all still doable. Only this time I'm getting to create the networks that do it. And so this is, I say, the era of believing in myself, betting on myself, and recognizing that everything I've done up until this point has prepared me to not just be an instrument of an organization, but go and create the organizations.
Nyla Beth, I'm wondering because it sounds so easy peasy, but pivoting and starting your own entrepreneurial journey takes a lot of effort and preparation. What did you prepare in order to have the worry of what do I put on the table tomorrow in case I don't have that stable job?
Yeah. So the worry never goes away. I don't think you can speak to any entrepreneur, any founder, and ever not have something that wakes you up in the middle of the night. That said, one of the biggest things that I did is I went back and I did two things. I said, first, I need to understand what are my values. What do I value? And Brene Brown, who has a myriad of information out there, but she has a values worksheet. And you just keep going through and you give yourself times and you limit how much time you have to pick what are the words that best represent your values. I had to get really crisp on that because anything I was going to do had to be tightly aligned to what I value as a person. The second thing I had to do is I went out and I said, what is uniquely me? In everything that I've done, what, if it had not been for Nyla Beth, might have gone differently? And that allowed me to hone into what was my offerings. What of value can I bring to other organizations? Putting those two, my personal values and my value, that a professional value that I offer to other, allow me to get really crisp on what I liked, what I could do, and as a result, who are my target, who's my target customers and clients, what are the tools I'm going to need to be able to bring with me into those engagements, and what should they expect in return. That gave me the confidence to launch. Since then, I've learned I don't love, as much as I love technology, I'm not my best at being my own IT office, nor am I necessarily the best sometimes at my own scheduling because I still have trouble saying no. But that all said, knowing those things and working through them is all anchored on really believing in something I can do that helps an organization, specifically in technology, grow and improve.
As a Georgetown University alumni ambassador, how has your education influenced your career path? And what advice do you have for recent graduates entering the workplace?
I wish I could say that I was still a recent graduate, but unfortunately, I have now decades, plural, behind me from my graduation. When I was in my university years, in retrospect, what I learned was how to be analytical and how to be a problem solver, how to articulate and communicate how to go about problem solving, and to do so with a very deep appreciation for me as somebody who studied foreign service of other cultures. I learned how to look at environments, situations, and challenges and break them down into actionable ways to do something about it. Fast forward 20 years, and I think about if I were to be either going into a university right now, what are all the things I would want to study? And what I'll offer is that there's a lot of things you can study today, but they might be OBE or bygone in 5 years. Challenge yourself to develop the skills that will stay with you. Problem solving, business, not what the specific technology is, but the concept of how you develop and innovate on technologies, how you bring people together to build them, how you look at different types of skills that have to come together. The ability to learn things that will become so intrinsic to who you are is the best thing you can take out of your university experience. There are a lot of things, as I mentioned, technically, I can learn to code. I can teach. There's a lot of things you can teach yourself if that's where your passion is. So use your formal education to put yourself in stretch environments that are going to actually challenge how you think, how you digest information, and how you learn to collaborate and bring different points of view together. Those are life skills that'll benefit you in any situation, personally or professionally. And that university time is, I think, just such a unique time to be able to harness that.
Speaking of university and learning and going through lots of books, what would be your number one book you wish you read before you started your career and you advise all the recent graduates to go through?
I happen to have it right here. And it is a book called Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance by Dr. Angela Duckworth. This book, to me, finally broke down what makes people successful in life and how it starts when we're young and it becomes very formulative, but it's something we all control within ourselves. How we strategically think in every opportunity and challenge that life presents to us, how are we getting clearer on how hard we're willing to practice and how much passion we're bringing, and where do those two things align? I feel like if I had read this book a long time ago, I would have been more invested in developing myself than trying to check the box of what I thought I was supposed to be learning, or where I was supposed to be in a career. I think I would have had a lot more internal understanding that I control my destiny more than any other expectation that's being put upon me.
But as we reflect on your career and you talk about grit and the art of knowing what you don't know, Eleanor Roosevelt once said, women are like tea bags. We don't know our true strength until we are put in hot water. So how are you brewing in hot water?
What I've learned over time is my reaction to being in that proverbial boiling water. Um, it's learning how to react when you're in there. And how I reacted 15 years ago when put in the hot water versus how I react today has changed dramatically. And with that is a confidence of remembering the water is going to cool down. It won't stay hot. How you react is going to be commensurate with how long your pace of cooling down, or how long you are able to stand and quickly get the water cool around you. Being in hot water, it creates a fight or flight reaction in most humans. And I would say when I was younger, it was probably more fight. Now, what I'm learning is to take a deep breath, understand, why is this so hot? What are these pressures? Why am I reacting the way I am? The ability to take that pause has become so important into how I react, because my reactions, what I've learned, is impact other people dramatically, often more than I might want them to. And so I believe that when we're in the hot water, the ability to take the deep breath, the ability to chill the water around you rather than worrying about jumping right out, is something that is a both a life skill and a professional skill, and it's absolutely a leadership skill, because everybody else looking at you and how you react in the hot water is going to take their cue from how you handle it. And if you're in a managerial position, or you want to be one day, you have to understand that you set the tone. And that is something that practice is the only way to really learn.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that great advice. As Grace Hopper said, ships in a port look beautiful, but that's not what ships are built for. Practice, practice, practice. Whether it's sailing through hot water or stormy water, it's definitely opportunity to go out of your comfort zone. Okay, enough of these quotations. Now it's time for Nyla Beth's best quotation, life lesson quote. How did it change you, and what is it?
I have, first to say, you talk about quotes. I have a little deck of cards that I got, and they're different. And every day, I flip through to a quote that I need for the day, just to give me a little extra reminder that I'm not alone. I'm not the first person to deal with this challenge. Of this little deck of cards, the one quote though that I use every day, and it matters in my professional being, and it's what I advise of leaders, especially people leading large organizations, but also for people who lead families, lead groups of friends. It's a quote that says, if your actions create a legacy that inspires others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, then you're an excellent leader. And the source of this quote is not somebody who's held, per se, a big executive position or led a government, but it's the infamous Dolly Parton. country music star, who really has realized that being a leader is not about what you accomplish, but how much you create the capacity in others to want to accomplish more. That is one quote I use every single day. It's my role as a parent, it is my role as a manager.
Mm. That's a beautiful quotation. And I also have to say that I'm a great fan of Dolly Parton, especially given the fact that she used some of her proceedings from I Will Always Love You song. It transpires for some charity work. And, like every blonde in this world, she was underappreciated. And we know how great role model she is, not just the country song singer, but also she inspired many, many next generations. And we have some great words from our community. Jamil Navarrosa says, hello, PhD, love the discussion today. And we have Juliana Coelho saying, learning is a skill. So thank you very much, our lovely audience, for leaving comments. And Patrick, oh, I would almost forget to mention that Patrick also left a final quotation here, well, final word. This has been a fascinating and passionate show. Thank you, Nyla, Beth, and Beata, another epic PhD. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we are not leaving yet. Let's imagine you could meet anyone in the world for a private breakfast. Who would you invite and where would you go to have that one-on-one breakfast?
My private breakfast, and it might be brunch, might be a little later in the day, but it would be with Madeleine Albright, who not only was the first female Secretary of State for the United States, but was also a professor at my alma mater, Georgetown University. Unfortunately, I didn't get to have her at the time because she was busy serving as Secretary of State. But there's a quote that she often has been referenced in, that hell has a special place for women who don't help women. And what I find so powerful about that is that it's a call to action, that those of us who have unique experiences, and those of us who whether we be starting our careers, whether we be in the middle, or whether we be towards the end, that in everything we do, we have a responsibility to pay it forward, lift others up. And I think that's true for everybody, especially for women helping other women. I would love to have brunch with her, and I would have it at the Tombs. The Tombs is a basement restaurant in Georgetown University, frequented by the students there. I'd love to have it in that environment because I think ultimately she was accessible. She came from, often she would say, sometimes some humble beginnings. She went through so many challenges and setbacks in her life and through her career, but she was always a person, and she always wanted to engage with others. And I would love to be in that setting where she had been a professor in an arena that is really where everybody's, just at the bar or just in the corner booth, and equal again across all stages, and to learn more about what it was really like. We know how it all turned out through her career, but I would love to know, when she thinks about what women helped her, what women didn't, who did she help, how did she help, and who did she engage in that. I just would love to know so much more, the real story as to what made her just such a diplomat and a leader.
Thank you, Nyla Beth. That is a great inspiration to many. And you also inspired us today. Thank you for sharing your incredible journey and insights with you. What is next for Nyla Beth? Any exciting news to share with us?
I am most excited about a recent volunteer opportunity that I've been asked to fulfill, which is as the United States chapter lead for an organization that's Women in Tech Global, which is based in Europe and has its chapters in over 52 countries. And it really is truly a movement to get more women engaged in tech, interested in and connected with each other. I believe that in the United States, we're very fortunate. While we have a lot more work to do, we also have a lot of organizations. We have a lot of networking opportunities that are around. But I also feel that we need to also give and engage more globally and understand that what are some of the challenges that might be happening in a geography here might be very similar or might be very different from those challenges in tech sectors in other parts of this world. So as the voluntary chapter lead for the US, I am super excited and really invite people to engage through the Women in Tech Hub and put yourself on the network. Look at who else has interests near you and continue to connect and move from connecting and liking into actually engaging with each other. And I'm really just excited to bring the United States more deeply into this global movement supported by the UN Women's Organization as well.
Oh, absolutely, Nyla. I think also the message is not just to women, men are also part
Correct.
of the movement because the biggest challenges are, the biggest problems are shared problems, the ones that nobody owns, but everybody is affected by.
So well said.
Thank you. Thank you, Nyla Beth. Your story is truly inspiring, and I'm sure our audience will take away valuable lessons to empower their own tech journeys. And that's it from episode 143 of the PhD live stream. Thanks to our guest, Nyla Beth Gawel. To stay updated and ensure you never miss a positivity hack delivered, follow Woman on It and turn on notifications to be alerted once a video has been released. Next week's PhD, we will have a guest, Maista. She will be talking about communicating transitions. Thank you so much to our lovely audience who participated today. Juliana Coelho, Jamil Navarroza, Patrick L. Young in Patrick's opinion, and Juliana says, great talk, so inspiring. Women in Tech is a great movement. We agree. There are so many other movements like ourselves, Women on IT, Hack the Future. If you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude, as Maya Angelou says. Today is your day to hack the future. Hack the positivity you want. Thank you.